What's going on in the land market? When I started, land investors would send out a buttload of mail and get a goodly amount of deals. Today, it's not uncommon for a seller to tell us that he or she received 5 offers that week alone. But it's not just the sheer number of people mailing that's creating a challenge. People who aren't even traditional land investors are nosing into our territory, the gall. In this episode of the Land.MBA podcast, David and I are going to discuss the changing market dynamics of the land market and what you have to do to win.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Land.MBA podcast. I'm David Van Steenkist with my co-host, Mr. Howard Zonder.
Greetings and salutations.
What's going on today, man? I hear you got some exciting news. You just pulled off an amazing refi on your house.
I did. You know, it's a really remarkable thing when I already had a 30-year loan at 3% and I could do a whole lot better. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
So I'm closing on Friday, tomorrow, and my new rate is going to be 2 1/8%.
It's crazy.
I was able to roll in all of the closing costs. It was I think just as an adjustment, my total out of pocket is going to be $1.24. And I'm going to be, unless I choose to pay off earlier, which I probably will, my new mortgage, monthly mortgage is going to be decreased by
Sweet.
$681.
And you
it's going to cost me $1.24 to do it.
So you could lend on land, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, here we are sitting with the highest inflation in 30 years, and I'm getting a 30-year fixed mortgage at 2 1/8. This doesn't make any sense.
You know, I'll tell you what, just to anybody who is in a position that you can refinance and keep that loan with inflation, that's a great hedge. If you're into your house and into your mortgage and you can refi and get that thing down as low as you can, or if you already have.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pay it off early.
That's my point.
It's almost free money.
It's free money. It's like, especially if interest rates end up going up, which I'm not positive they will. I mean, under normal circumstances in inflation, I mean, we remember what happened some of us remember what happened in the late 70s when Paul Volcker jammed up the interest rates to slow down the economy. But that inflation was coming from a seriously overheated economy. And so he jammed up the interest rates, things slowed down. And he brought everything sort of kind of came back to normal. The cause of inflation here is a little different. It's because I think 40% of the dollars in the world have been printed in the last couple of years or few years. I mean, it's insane how much money has just been printed. And then on top of that, you throw all the supply chain crap in there, which is, creating a demand supply imbalance, which is driving up prices. So all of this is driving up inflation. However, if interest rates go up, which are all driven from government interest rates, well, I think the government's going to default on its debt. It needs low interest rates in order to refinance the debt. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. All I know is I'm really happy at 2 1/8. If interest rates go up, you're absolutely right. It's like free money. And almost even if interest rates don't go up, it's like free money compared to, say, investing in land. So why would I ever pay that off early?
Oh, yeah. I mean, heck, not to belabor this point, but if I had a bunch of equity in my house, I would, if I were sitting out there and I could do a cash out refi and then lend that cash, I've got the loan at between 2 and 3%, and I could fund land deals with it. Even if you only had like $100 grand and you could, that $100 is going to soon be 250, just flipping land over a couple of years with it.
Totally.
Or fund your own deals with it.
Absolutely. So many ways to use it. So
I'd ride it out for 30 years. I wouldn't care about paying it off. So
my biggest challenge is that deep down, I really want to sell my house. It sounds crazy, but where I live in Connecticut right now, it's still exploding. Houses are moving in like within a day or two of going on the market at full price because there's still so many people escaping New York City and coming out here because it's too crazy down there. I mean, maybe things will settle down with the new mayor, but it's still happening, and the market is phenomenal. I could get this is the moment in time where it's probably peaking right now. I could get the most for my house. The problem is, if I sold my house, I wouldn't stay in the Northeast. I would leave. So, I mean, that's a major, major decision. Not quite sure I'm in a position to leave just yet. So, at least I've got my costs down. But that just shows that the real estate market's still pretty crazy out there. I just read an article that home starts are starting to decline. And what I read was it was supply chain issues. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, actually breaking ground starts have slowed down because of those factors, but pulled permits are at record highs all over the country.
Mhm.
And so it depends on who you're following, who you read, who you listen to. Some people think this boom's going to continue. Others think it's getting ready to start trending down. And there's already places where it's trending down, especially if you look at some of the hottest markets out west, Dallas, Phoenix, Denver,
Yeah.
Mountain and Southwest, and even some of the Southeast starting to slow. But some people argue that that's seasonality as well, because this is typical, just after school starts, So
Right.
anyway,
But they've been so hot for so long. I mean, things can't stay that hot forever.
Yeah. These are some crazy times in the real estate field. Demand is high, inventory's low. If you're a realtor, a wholesaler, or house flipper, you've probably noticed how hard it's become to find quality deals. This is why so many in our industry are looking at land as an outstanding way to add new revenue stream to their portfolio.
If you're listening to this podcast, you already know that land is a relatively unknown niche of the multi-billion-dollar real estate market with huge profit potential. Seriously, what other business delivers 200, 300, 1,000% return on investment deal after deal?
It seems hard to believe, but land really returns 100 to 300% commonly, and sometimes over 1,000% deal after deal. And in the age of COVID, demand for land has never been higher.
Many of our students have already created new revenue streams with land and added 6 figures to their incomes.
We've had clients who have achieved multiple 6 figures in their first year of business. Another paid for all his coaching and pocketed 15 grand on his first deal. Now, not everybody has these kinds of results, but they're certainly possible if you have the right instruction, the right support, and highly experienced mentors.
You don't need another course that promises the moon and then delivers an elementary school education. You need a proven program suitable to your experience and ambition. You need a Land.MBA. The Land.MBA is everything you need to blow it out in the land business. Courseware, mentorship, tools, community, and even deal funding. Look, because you're here listening to me, you know that Dave and I don't hold anything back. That's a founding principle we've had from the beginning. With the Land.MBA, you get everything we have to offer. There are no upsells. And now, through popular demand, we have transformed our highly regarded one-to-one coaching program into a small group format at a fraction of the price. If you're ready to build a 6-figure income with the freedom of being your own boss, go right now to www.land.mba/fortune. That's www.land.mba/fortune. Let us help you create your next path to wealth.
So, all right, well.
But it's not just the housing market that's getting a little bit out of whack. The land market's getting a little bit whack as well. But I think for some very different reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you been seeing that? Have you been seeing that there are things happening out, particularly in the acquisition side of the business, that are creating serious challenges? I think people are still doing well, but it just feels like there are externalities coming in that are making acquisition a little bit harder.
Well, there's a couple of things at play, and I think this is the time when the cream rises to the top. You got to be on your game, and the thing is, one of the things I see, you've got wholesalers. You got two types of wholesalers. You got the land wholesalers that, have been trained in land, at least you think they have. So they know how to market to it, and they know, they've got a decent idea of how it should be priced and whatnot. But they're still overpaying for a little bit. And then I'll talk a little bit more about land wholesalers in a bit, but because of the shortage of supply in houses, you have these house wholesalers that, they've got marketing systems set up. They know how to do mail campaigns and whatnot. So they're switching gears and moving into land, but they're not really trained in land yet. And so they're over offering. They're making really high offers. And even if they get the price per acre right, they're offering at 60, 70, 80 cents on the dollar instead of the 20 to 40 cents on the dollar that we're typically offering these days. Yeah. And so they're setting an unrealistic expectation with sellers, making it a little more challenging, and nobody ends up closing on some of those deals. And now part of the reasoning, I think, this is just an opinion, with house wholesalers, is they a lot of them have done a lot of infill lots and lots that are developable, maybe commercial, or even residential that are developable. So they're thinking, well, this guy is going to buy it to add value, whether it's rezoning or entitlements or, splitting it, whatever you're going to do to force the value, or developing it vertically. So they think you're going to make your money on the development, and they're applying that same model to rural land, and not really understanding it. And I've seen some of that going on, and that's it's setting a high expectation. So it's made it a little bit more challenging in certain areas to get deals.
So, house wholesalers typically operate in developments, places where they're going to build on it, single family, multifamily, whatever. Are you seeing a lot of activity of house wholesalers in rural markets?
Well, I'm definitely seeing more of them coming into the land game, and some of them are getting trained properly, and some of them are bypassing the training, thinking,
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's the same thing, But the other thing is, I've seen some outrageous price offers out there, even from, just newbie land flippers. Maybe they're coming in a course and they're taught to price a certain way, and they're not really honing their skills and pricing well, and they're way overpricing. And of course, then they're not closing. We talk to people every day who say, well, I got, you offered me this and I got offered, this much more. Right. And sometimes we find that they've been offered retail and even high retail. And of course, nobody's going to close on it. And we always tell them, well, I think you should take that offer, because that's a hell of an offer. And I tell them it's above retail. And I said, but call me back if they don't close. And I don't think they're going to.
Right. But have you ever had somebody, there's some sellers out there that are pretty smart. And they're like, well, I'm sitting here with a stack of offers on my table right now. So I've got your name, and I'm going to be sending out a letter for everybody to do a blind submission at this point. And whoever comes in highest, that's the one I'm going to take.
I've never had anybody tell me that, but I've received them.
I've received the letters. Yeah. I've received the letters.
In fact, I've received a couple of emails, and they didn't blind copy everybody. They CC'd everybody. I was like, yeah, I know that guy. I know that guy. I know that guy. So pretty much we joke off that email and be like, yeah, good luck to this guy, pass. you know, somebody says they got a stack of offers. I said, well, I've got 10,000 offers out this month too. So I'm not that worried about your deal.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, obviously when people get that many offers, it screws up the market. And I think that's another thing that's really changing the landscape of the land market is, you know, big schools are bringing in lots of people and training them into business. Now, granted, they're not all going to succeed and last and stay, but in their initial launch, they do send mail. And so the sheer volume of mail going out right now in the land business, one, it's much higher than I think it's ever been. And two, it oftentimes tends to be concentrated in, you know, the select, known, really good rural desert square kind of markets. Mm-hmm. And it just, not to say that you can't continue to get deals in those markets. It's amazing. I mean, you know, you go down there into, you know, Costilla County, and you've got, you know, just an area of desert squares that's bigger than the state I live in. But it's certainly making it harder, and it's making the sellers stop and say, wait a second, maybe I'm in the catbird seat here from the negotiation. Why should I come down again vis-a-vis retail pricing when I've got so many people that are so interested in my land?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
this is the age-old question, right? The age-old question is it getting too competitive out there, you know, or, you know, because certainly when I was coming up, everybody always talks about the abundance mentality, and I believe in I believe in the abundance mentality too, but the reality of it is, I think that there are certain markets that are getting pretty saturated.
Hey, folks, people often talk about automating and outsourcing your land flipping business, but what does that really mean? Generic solutions leave it to you to figure out how to set up and maintain the automations. I've been running my land business on Land.MBA for over 3 years because it's a total solution and allows me to focus on being a great land investor. Land.MBA was built specifically for land investing by a land investor. And with many of the most successful people in the business using it for years, it's evolved into one of the most feature-rich solutions on the market. Some of the key benefits I get are being able to create and manage mail campaigns and neighbor letters. I'm able to automate tasks amongst my team, create contracts and deeds, and email, text, or mail them within a few clicks. I can automatically capture sales leads from any lead source, including Facebook Messenger. Then it automatically pushes those leads into my sales funnel so that I can manually follow up, but they also go into my automated drip campaign. And since Land.MBA is a total cloud-based solution, I can run my business from anywhere in the world with a phone, laptop, or tablet. So if you want to turn your hobby into a professional, scalable business, just go to landspeedtech.com/Dave to receive a $150 discount today.
You know, it's interesting. Every time I think that, then I'll see one of my students, or, you know, I'll go dip back in that honey hole and I'll have a great mailer. Yeah. Or I'll see one of them have a great mailer. You know, we won't mention names, but we know one of our students just went into a pretty crowded county recently and had an amazing mailer, like a better mailer than I've ever had in my 225 plus deals in 6 years in the business on that person's first mailer. Yeah.
That's because of the outstanding coaching she received in the Land.MBA program.
Yeah, if I could coach myself that well.
Yeah, if you could just like stand in front of the mirror and actually listen to yourself.
Right. Anyway, yeah. So no, you know, there's plenty of people doing great. I'm still doing well. You're still doing well. Yeah, certainly you've got to start, you know, it's to a point now you got to find a bit of a way to differentiate yourself. And, you know, you can't just, you know, send out crappy postcards. You got to, you know, differentiate yourself in your letter, mix it up, do some testing, and stuff like that. But
that's actually a really good point, because this is something I've been working on a lot lately, which is testing letters. I mean, it used to be a simple thing. Do I send the 1-page letter? Do I send the 2-page letter? And I would do an A/B test and I'd figure out which one works better in a county, and that's the one I'd go with. Now I tweak my letters all the time, and it's about which one. And then you've got now, when we started, there were the 2 letter types. There was the neutrals and the blinds. Now we've introduced the 3rd type of the ranged offers, which I think is very, very, they're all powerful in different situations. So you got to know in which situation to use which kind of letter. But then once you have those 3 letters, you can write them an infinite number of ways. And it's kind of funny in marketing. I remember in my last corporate job, we were doing some testing on one of our websites. We had lots of websites, and it's just amazing when you do A/B testing, even on a website, because you always want to test. It's best to test one thing at a time, right? And the kind of things that we would test are the call to action button. Let's this time have this is the way it looks now. Let's do a version where it's bigger and see which one performs better. Or this one's in green. Let's make this one in red and see which one performs better. And simply changing a color can make a 3-4 percentage point difference in conversion rates.
Yeah.
Just a color of a button.
Yeah.
So if that's true on the web, imagine what copy and layout can do on the letter. So I think you're absolutely right. It's about how do you get yourself differentiated and communicate in a way that they say, I don't know, there was just something about that letter. I think this is the one I want to call.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a really hard thing to do, but I think, for those of you who just took a course and you're using in all the courses, you get letter templates and whatnot. And it's funny. I mean, I get letters all the time, because I have lots of notes out there. So I own the properties. So I get lots of letters. And it's amazing how many people don't change a darn thing on the templated letters. And guys, you got to do a little work. Those things are just to give you some guidelines. But, if you're not good at writing ad copy, go hire a good copywriter and create 2 or 3 or 4 versions of the same letter and get it out there. Have a good logo on there. Talk to your mail house, see what they can do on your envelope to make it a little bit more attractive, things like that. And then, of course, there are the people who will look you up online. And I think gone are the days of not needing a buy-side website. Mm-hmm. I think, and it needs to be nice and professional and with good ad copy on it and something that humanizes you, maybe a video that, so all of those things are good. And you have to do a little bit more. Gone are the days where I think, you could use the same buy side, for your buy and your sales and use the same brand. I didn't set up a buy side website for 2 or 3 years, but it made a difference when I did. And now it's been up there long enough. It actually creates some organic traffic. So, you got to find a way to separate yourself. This is a business like anything else. And, it's not a blue ocean anymore. It's pretty much a red ocean, but you got to find those blue oceans, those niches within the red ocean and find a way to separate yourself.
You made a really, really important point in there. A few of them probably, but one that really stuck out in my mind. And that's this idea of humanizing yourself. And the beautiful thing about the internet is that you can package yourself up and make yourself look really professional, even if you're a one-man shop. And when somebody receives that letter from you, they don't know who you are, how big you are, how long you've been in business. It just looks like a business, or maybe it looks like a business. And so they don't have any connection with you. You're just this no-name business person that wants to buy their land. But I have personal experience of a salesperson I worked with, and what she did was so simple and so revolutionary, and she just blew it out. And what she did was so small. She took a little thumbnail picture of herself and she made it part of her signature on her emails. That was it. And all of a sudden she went from being the corporation to being a human being. And it changed everything. It changed the way people responded to her. It changed the response rate that she got when she communicated with people. Humanizing is absolutely, I think it's absolutely critical. And if you can kind of work that into a letter, whether it's in your copy or in a picture or a signature or whatever, I think that certainly would help an awful lot. But the important thing is that if somebody's getting a lot of letters, I think you're absolutely right. Differentiate yourself, humanize yourself, and send a buttload of mail.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so yeah. And so essentially you can still, this is still fantastic business, guys. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, love it.
We wouldn't be in it. But yeah, do I need to send more mail to get a deal? And don't ask me for the statistics because they're all over the board. I don't think anybody really knows 0.5%, 1%, 1/4%. I don't think anybody's tracking it that closely. And the thing is, the funny thing is, it can vary all the time based on timing, based on how many people had a relative die and leave them the property that month.
Just the nature of your list. Does it include in-state or out-of-state or both? And
yeah. So, yeah, one of the other things I alluded to earlier, and I wanted to talk about in a little bit more detail, and that's actual land wholesalers that they came in and they've got land training and their business is wholesaling, or maybe they're just wholesaling several of their, a percentage of their properties and keeping some. Well, typically I find that they're wholesaling their junk. Because nowadays there's plenty of people funding land. Maybe not these cheap desert squares, but I've looked at a lot of them, and in fact, I don't even look at them anymore. I think I've bought 2 over the years, maybe 3, and they were okay deals, but I've looked at so many of them that there's just not enough spread in them. The wholesaler is doubling his or her money, but not leaving any meat on the bone for you. And frequently you'll have some of these guys that'll send you out a big list, and you get that list, and then you go on their website and realize, well, shit, the same price on the wholesale list, it's the same price on their website. So I'm paying retail for it. And I know, there are some people that like that game on the lower ones. They have a lot of capital and they just want to get terms deals. And it's okay if it takes 2.5 years to get their capital back. That's a different ball game. That's not my ball game. Anyway, that's another thing. But the other thing I wanted to touch on, because we talked about people that, sellers that come back to you and talk about, I've had, all these higher offers, and you're like, yeah, you should take that offer because it doesn't make sense. Don't just leave those as dead in your system. I put those in a status called back burner. And then, we may trickle an email or a text or another letter out to them. Usually we'll text or call them to follow up. And there's no magic number to when you should follow up or how often you should follow up, but follow up, see if they've sold that property yet, because they're going to come to the reality at some point that they're getting letters with low offers and too high offers, and they're going to kind of realize what people are actually maybe willing to pay, and it's not what they want. And at some point, some of those sellers will be like, yeah, okay, you wore me down, and I like you and I like your follow-up, so I'm going to sell it to you just because I like you.
Right. I mean, the reality is, by the time they figure out that the people with the high offers aren't going to close, they have long forgotten you.
Yeah.
So without follow-up, don't expect them to proactively come back to you. It's just not going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we started this with a kind of a provocative title. What's going on with the land market? So, all right, so there's these issues going on, whether it's just a lot of people coming into the market. We've got people coming in from different backgrounds that may not have the right training and a different set of expectations of what kind of ROI they really need or want to get. which could drive up prices. Our sellers are getting multiple offers. All these things are happening. And in some cases, it's creating some challenges. Dave, is there another business you'd rather be in than this?
No. No.
Exactly. It's still phenomenal. It's still phenomenal. The world will always have challenges, and it's the nature, every time there's a good thing, eventually the word's going to get out and there's going to be more competition and there needs to be more innovation. And we've just got to continue to innovate and to work hard and not just think that we can just do the same thing over and over again ad infinitum for the rest of eternity and make the same volume and the same returns. I mean, we got to grow.
You've got to adapt and improvise, and like in anything. And, there's a few keys. Number one, I think getting your pricing right, getting it without, how did you put it earlier?
Without killing yourself.
Yeah, without killing yourself, getting it close enough to getting a reasonable person on the phone and without killing yourself. And so that's one of the keys. The other thing with regards to the nuances in setting yourself above the others, and rising to the top, you've got to get creative. Now, one of the neat things that Howard and I are in the position of is not just the fact that we're active land investors and we've been doing it a while, but having a podcast and having a coaching business, and Howard with LandSpeed, his land software business, we get to talk to a lot of people and we get to figure out, what's working and what's not working across a wide swath of people. So talking to experienced people is a good way to hack your way to success. And I think now more than ever, not to pitch our coaching, but having a mentor, if you're a beginner, is more important than ever.
Yeah.
So that you don't experience as many pitfalls. You've got somebody there to guide you and hold your hand and say, no, don't go that direction. Been there, done that. This is what's going on now. So we aim to provide as much value as we can for free on this podcast. But that's one of my nuggets is get a mentor, learn how to really price right. And Howard, tell us a little bit about the nuggets we're going to talk about on our next podcast.
Well, I am really excited about next podcast. So we are going to delve into pricing. And we've talked about pricing in the past, but there are some new developments in the world of pricing that are going to help you really, really step up your game. And it's... as Dave alluded to, my belief is that our goal as land investors is to get as accurate as we can possibly be in our pricing without killing ourselves. That's really important because we know that only a small percentage of our mail is going to convert. So we don't want to completely kill ourselves on the front end. However, whether our pricing is accurate or not will have a huge impact on our response rate and our conversion rate. And so and how do you get it right? Well, this is something that's evolved certainly a lot since Dave and I got into the business. But there are some new developments that we're going to talk about that I think are really, really exciting. And we're going to make you what we call the mafia offer. We're going to make you an offer you can't refuse. So we're going to offer something great, and we're going to talk in detail about some really great pricing methodology. So I'm really excited. You don't want to miss that one. Please, if you're going to listen to one podcast, listen to it next week.
All right. That's awesome. Well, without boring you all anymore, thank you so much for joining us. David Van Steenkist and Marlon Brando signing off.
We'll see you next time. We hope you enjoyed this episode, had a bit of fun, and walked away with some actionable insights that you can apply to your business. Dave and I have got some great content and interviews planned, so don't forget to rate and review, and of course subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. If we mention any interesting links or tools, you'll find them in the show notes. To learn more about Land.MBA, visit our website at, wait for it, Land.MBA. See you next time on the Land.MBA podcast.